talk about monograms a little bit. The monogram is a cool little project that will allow for practice in manipulating pre-existing type, creating your own type, and having a little bit of self-identity potentially happen as well. So monograms typically represent someone or something, and a monogram can be used in a multitude of ways. Typically, anymore, it's used for branding purposes, and also again some self-identity. So you'll see monograms anywhere from high fashion like Louis Vuitton, through sports like LeBron James has his own monogram, things like that. So we're gonna explore monograms a little bit. In this video, we're gonna check out how to place your initial idea or your sketch into Illustrator so you can use it as a guide. Beyond that, we'll look at the type tool a little bit. We'll expand some type. We'll look at direct select and how to manipulate individual points. We'll look at the shape builder, Pathfinder, and adding as we go. We'll look at how to use the pen tool a little bit more as well. And then beyond that, we'll look at how to overlap and intersect as well. So there's going to be a handful of things in this video, maybe a little more lengthy. You may be able to jump around a little bit to kind of go into a specific focus on the video as well if you need to. So just a heads up there. Yeah, so we'll start with placing a sketch. So with that, I'm going to make sure I get the right layer selected. I pre-built some layers here just to kind of organize. I have my guides here, guidelines here, what I'm going with, sketch here. That will be on its own layer, and then I will lock it once I get it in the right position and scale down, and then I'll work on the monogram on this red layer here. So first off, we're going to go to place the sketch. So I'm going to go to File, Place. So obviously for this to work, you have to have your sketch on your computer. So however you took a picture of it or placed it in, or put it in a file, what have you, we need to find that original sketch. So what we're going to do, I think I put this on a desktop. Maybe I did not. Downloads, yes. We're going to go to Monogram Sketches. So this is Dylan Palmer's student. Yes, I asked if I could use it as a reference. Some awesome stuff here. So yeah, I'm going to borrow his work. So thanks, Dylan. I'm going to I'm going to scale this down. I had to zoom out quite a bit because the sketches can be a bigger image when you pull it in, so don't be alarmed when you go to File, Place and your sketch takes up a huge amount of real estate on your screen. So you might have to hit Z there, hold down Alt, zoom out, and scale it down with your Move tool when you bring it in. Is it required to bring in your sketch as a reference? Absolutely not. Can it help? Sure can. Oh, zoomed in too much. So if you feel like it's beneficial to bring it in as a reference and a guide, go ahead and do that. I'm not going to make all of these, but we'll start in on some and see where we can go. So what I'll do is I will actually look at the properties of my sketch. It's pretty bold, so what I'm going to do is just kind of turn this down, the opacity and the appearance here, just so I can see my tools a little bit better when I start working over the top. Let's work with a few here. So first off, I said we'd use the type tool. So what I'm going to do is just try to find one that looks like a fairly similar type, and I'm going to try to recreate that type, or that monogram with type. So I'm going to click and drag, make a box, and type out the initials, and then I'm just going to explore fonts a little bit. We've talked about in class that you're not limited to, oh, we might get lucky here. I'm going to use this one, Big Castle. You're not limited to the pre-downloaded fonts. You can go to dafont.com or Adobe Fonts or other font websites to find fonts. You're in a position where you can essentially use any font that you can download for free. So feel free to do that if you want. Okay. So what we're going to do is just kind of line these up. I'm going to move my text box a little bit, and I'm going to make I'm just going to try to match this up as best I can. Yeah, to see what we can do. So I might not have to manipulate this one too much. I might be able to use my character settings, which I guess would be an added thing here, but it's good content to see. I'm just going to try to match this up a little bit. And as a note, you don't have to make your final version match exactly up to your sketches. You can refine as you go. You can adjust, tweak things. You don't have to match everything exactly to your sketch. Hopefully, you don't do that anyway, because your final version should be a scaled up version or a remastered or a quote unquote better version than your sketch anyway. So anyway, going back into character panels, we're going to check this one out that we're making. Zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. There we go. I'm going to go to character panel, and I'm just going to explore my options here. Maybe I can make this a little bit taller just by hitting this little up button. Maybe we can move this down a little bit. So this is one way I could go through and try to make these line up a little bit better. I can adjust the kerning, which is the spacing between individual symbols or letters. We're going to call that pretty close. From here, maybe I can show you an additional thing, and that's the free transform tool. If I hit the letter E on my keyboard, this will give me more of a free form adjustment to where I can just kind of click and drag to manipulate my font a little bit. And we're going to call that one pretty solid here. As far as character panel adjustments and free transform. Now I think I'm going to tweak it just a little bit so my extensions off of my font here are a little less aggressive, and I'm going to try to make things a little more bold around, kind of line it up a little bit more with my font. So, or with my sketch, excuse me. So what I'm going to do, zoom out real quick, another added thing here, just in case things go south and I don't like the way it's working, I'm going to take my initial one, I'm going to hold down Alt, click and drag, and I'm going to put one off to the side here. That way I have a backup here in case it doesn't go the way I want it. There we go. Now I'm going to select my initials here, or Dylan's initials, and I'm going to go to Object, Expand. And what this will do is it will convert my type into shapes. So once I look at this expand here, expand window, I'm just going to hit OK. And what you'll see now is that it's no longer type. So I can't just click on it and type out and change the letters. Now it's actual shapes. So if I look close, I should be able to see a red outline everywhere with all these little anchor points. So this is where I could go in and kind of fine-tune my initials here, or Dylan's initials, excuse me. I can fine-tune the letters that you see. So if we go back to our guide here, we've expanded. Now we're going to, actually let's do this so we can actually see a little bit better. There we go. Move that over. Expanding, yep, so we go to Object, Expand after selecting, and then what I'll do is I'll just fine tune this so these extensions off of the letters are a little less aggressive. So I'm going to go to Direct Select Tool, or the letter A on your keyboard, and I'm going to move this area just a little bit. So in doing that, I can go through and click on individual anchors like this, or let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see. I'm going to click and drag and see if I can impact multiples at once. So it's a little aggressive. Maybe I can just select these two. Here we go. Now I got this weird little notch here, but if I want to fine-tune this, I can click once and then click again on an anchor or a node, and I can tweak how this looks just a little bit. So this is just kind of a way to customize your look a little bit. Is it necessary? Maybe not. Does it make it more yours? Sure. Is it a way to practice and understanding, to gain understanding of how Direct Select Tool works? Absolutely. I kind of like that angled look. So what I'm going to do is kind of do the same thing here. I'm not going to do this whole project. I just want to show you some initial steps and then let you explore a little bit more. This might not be exactly what I want, but it's a good example. So just with a few quick clicks, we've adjusted this to make it look a little bit different, which is kind of nice. Zoomed in way too fast there, my apologies. Maybe we'll look at this one here, use the Direct Select tool, move this up a little bit. So you can explore. If it works out well, great. If it doesn't, then you can always hit Control or Command Z there and step back to adjust with the Direct Select tool. Another cool setting is that once you expand and then you hit your Direct Select tool, you should be able to see these little circles on the corners of different areas of your letters. So what these will do, if you click once and then drag, it will actually round out those areas to make it a softer edge if you want. You can do this with shapes. You can do it with different components. I haven't figured out the exact science as to when they show up and when they don't, but you can adjust those things, which is kind of nice. And this is all with the Direct Select tool after you expand. So if we zoom out, there we go. We've expanded our type. We've customized it a little bit using the type tool, expanding, and Direct Select. Beyond that, let's look at creating one and maybe messing with some overlap and using a shape builder. So I'm going to use the pen tool to create this one here. And I don't want to create more than what I need to. So keep in mind when you create this stuff, if you make it once, you can always make it again by duplicating. You don't have to try to recreate something twice. So in this case, if we look, it's the D and the P are essentially the same letter. They're just kind of flipped around. So what I'll do is I'll just make one and then I'll duplicate. So I have the inside here, and then if I go, I can click and make another one and duplicate. I did that pretty fast. Let me slow that down. I can select my circle, hold Option or Alt, and then I can click away and I can make a duplicate. So now I have the inside ellipse, and now I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt, or Shift and Option if you're on a Mac, and I'm going to make the outside part of this P. Maybe I'll adjust it so it comes in a little bit more. Maybe this one can be adjusted as well, maybe a little bit smaller. And again, you don't have to take your sketch as an exact truth. You can adjust and tweak as you go if it makes sense to do that. Not will it always make sense to do that. You might have a more steady hand and more practice in drawing, and you want to make your sketch exactly or your final version exactly the way the sketch is, but it's going to be kind of tricky to center these two circles. So what I'm going to do is select both. Add a bonus here. I'm going to use the alignment tool or alignment settings. Alignment settings will show up after you have multiple things selected, in this case 2 circles. So what I'll do is I'll hit align center vertically and horizontally, and now it's perfectly centered there, which is awesome. I will then build the stick part, I guess, for lack of a better word, of the P. And if I look, the strong's a little rounded, so what I'll do is I'll try to do the same using those inside adjustments where I can create a corner into a curve, and we're going to call that good for the P. So what I'll do here after using shapes, using simple shapes to build, now I'm going to build this even more using the Shape Builder tool. After I take this part of the P, the rounded part, I'm going to hold Alt and duplicate, and I'm going to drop it down here. So again, I don't have to recreate some of this because it's already built for me. And what I'll do after that is use the Shape Builder to build it. So I'm going to go here. Shape Builder tool is Shift M, or you can just click and find what looks like a little circle eating a big circle. I can click and drag through this stuff after it's selected to build it together. And there we have it. We have a monogram that's made with shapes, which is pretty awesome. What I will do next, using what's on my list here, I can use, let me step back actually, I can use a Shape Builder and a Pathfinder tool. Pathfinder is a little bit more developed. Let me show you what that looks like here on this one. If I, oops, there we go. If I select everything, if I have multiple things selected, your Pathfinder tools will also show up. Pathfinder will work differently based on what is previewed. In this case, it may not be the best move to use because it will consume inside areas, but essentially what Pathfinder tool does in this case is it tries to unite or merge, actually looks kind of cool, things in a different way, and it's a little bit faster than the Shape Builder tool, but again, it all depends on what you're trying to build and whether or not Pathfinder tool is the best bet. Let me rebuild this one. There we have it. Shape Builder, Pathfinder, pen tool. Let's build one with the pen tool here. Let's go with this one. This one I will show intersecting lines and overlap as well, so I'm going to manipulate this a little bit more so it overlaps as well and intersects. So I'll make a few from this example here. So what I'm going to do, instead of trying to build all the way around and outline this thing as an example, I'm not going to build it by going around the inside, right, and then going back and then building it around the outside. What I will do is just build the build right on this center, and then I will just make my stroke a little bit bigger and I'll adjust the stroke. So I'm going to go with the pen tool, double check my settings. So the pen tool has a no fill and the stroke of black, and I'm just going to recreate this monogram. So I'm going to use some of my shortcuts as I build this with the pen tool. I'm going to hold shift to restrict my movement initially with the pen tool, so I'm going to hold shift so it's a perfectly vertical line there, and then I'm just going to build around. I'm going to click and drag here, and I'm going to hold shift here as well so I can keep a perfectly vertical handle in creating here. Now this one's kind of wonky. What I need to do is hold down Alt, and I can move this handle down a little bit, kind of fine tune as I go, and I'm just going to rebuild hold Alt, move this one. I'm going to create this monogram. Command click away from that tool. So this is a quick or an initial setup here. You can see that the stroke is a little bit thinner and the caps look a little bit different, and so do the corners. So what I'm going to do is look at the stroke appearance and adjust it to make it match my sketch a little bit more. Cap settings, wherever you stop a path and it's open, you can see, here let me zoom in. So this would be considered a cap because it doesn't connect anything else, it just kind of stops here. So if I want to adjust that, I can go to stroke and I can adjust the cap. Now this one extends it, this one rounds it off, this is your standard. I like the rounded off look here for this monogram. Let me zoom back out. And maybe for the corners, I will adjust that as well. So I'll go to stroke. Maybe I'll make the corners rounded as well. Zoom out again. Zooming in is good, by the way, if you're trying to look at these finer details. Maybe I'll adjust this down a little bit too. Maybe this one too. There we go. What I'll do now is just bump up the thickness of the stroke. And now it looks a little closer to the initial sketch. I'll refining things a little bit. There we go. So here's one version. Now I'm going to hold Option and duplicate this a few times. And I'm going to set this up so I can overlap and intersect. That way we have different options, and yeah, just kind of push the boundaries a little bit and learn a little bit more. Again, options are always good. So now we'll just look at these three. I'm kind of vibing how these are looking, by the way. Again, thanks Dylan for let me use these. So I'll leave this first one alone, and you didn't see that. I just hid my sketch because it's a little more distracting than it is helping at this point. So overlapping, essentially you just want to create parts that, well, overlap. And intersect will look a little bit different as well. So it's good to have, again, options here. So to create an overlap, essentially what that means is you have one object over the top of the other. So you can create overlap by taking two letters and then just moving them over the top, and it just creates a different effect and can potentially make a strong impact on your work. So it's one of the requirements I'm looking for in at least one of them, one of your monograms. And if it's not your favorite, that's okay, but we are going to learn through that process. So this one, I will just take my direct select tool, click on this portion, and I'm just going to drag it over the top. I might have to fine-tune this a little bit. And with that, I've technically made an overlap, but I want to go a step further, I think, and just kind of make this extend over the top. Okay, so now we have this overlapping section. And I think I will do the same to the bottom part of the P. So I'm going to hold Shift, select this anchor, and hold Shift, select that one. And maybe I will do something like this. And then I will take this bottom one and make it drop down a little bit further, and tweaking as I go here. There we go. So this one will show some overlap here. Now intersecting lines, let me delete that one and I'll duplicate the second one. Intersecting lines, what I could do is make it look as if portions of this intersect. So this is going to be a little more challenging, but it can potentially create some cool effects here. So what I'm going to do is expand this. What we'll do is take our stroke, and I'm going to go to Object, Expand, and then I will hit OK. let's go object. I think I will just keep it on the stroke there. There we go. Is that what I want? Let's do, yeah, that'll work. So from here, actually, I'm not going to expand it yet. I'll go back to my original, sorry, reverting back to a pre-existing here. What I'm going to do is expand it first, and then I'm going to make things overlap so I can make an intersecting line. So this might not be, again, something that it gives you the exact look that you want, but it could be cool. Intersecting lines, you'll see it a lot in monograms that are used for sports. An iconic one to me is, well, our own Huntington North, or like Notre Dame uses an intersecting monogram. So parts go above and behind portions of the monogram. So that's what we're going to try to do here. I'm going to take this top part after expanding, and I'm going to click and drag and make it run over the top like we did before, but now we can see kind of it's intersecting here, and then we'll get back to that here in a minute. And then I will do the same to this bottom area. I'm going to select all those with the direct select tool. I'm going to drag it over. Let's go here. Now this line got a little thin, so I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Here we go. And then maybe this will get a little tricky. I'm going to hold shift and then make this drop down a little bit farther. So in the end, it looks a little similar, pretty similar here. Some slight adjustments, but what we're going to try to do is make something that intersects. So what that means, again, is there's going to be some things that overlap or intertwine to create a different effect. So what we'll do here is, right now it has a fill. I'm going to put a stroke color on here so we can see what happens there. It gets a little crazy. Yeah, just so you can see the different adjustments, or see what happens when you put a stroke on there. Let me explore a little bit. Go with the pen or the shape builder. Make this overlap this way. Is that what I want? Maybe. Object, expand, got that. Shape builder, there we go. I wonder why that line's going away. That's interesting. Okay. So let's take a different approach. Let's keep it as this. I'm kind of liking these colors. I'm going to duplicate this by Option, move over so I can duplicate. And what I'll do is I will take away on this one. There we go. Take away that part. And then on this one, I will do the opposite. I will add it together. Well, this is giving me a better look here. So this is going to be a trial and error thing. It might not come out perfect initially. There's probably a better approach. to this. I'm just going on the fly here. We can see that it's overlapping here. But what I wanted it to do is to go here and then overlap here as well. So it's going to be a little bit more developed, but if I take my pen tool, I should be able to add components here and then fill another path here. So I'm going to take pen tool, I'm going to click here to make another stroke on there, and then it definitely gives the idea of overlap there. Not sure why it was not working there initially, but we got it to work. Now we have 3 different looks here. I wonder if I can push this even further. I'm gonna do object, expand again, and then let's use our Pathfinder tool. That looks cool. We are going to merge, and it will merge all of the same colors there. Now, magic wand with the letter Y. That looks pretty neat too. So, a little more developed, a little more advanced, but it's a cool approach there. I'm really liking how these are turning out. So yeah, I know that's a lengthy video, but we have different options here. Making it with the pen tool, making with shapes using shape builder, making one with type. So different looks here. Challenge yourself, try to explore different options, see what you can come up with. It's always good to have options. What we're trying to do is just make an extension of you somehow using monograms. So far so good. We'll scale these out, maybe center them up, and we'll have some solid work here. I'm really digging this one here. Maybe I'll scale this one out, make it stand out a little bit more. So right now I'm just using the space that I have, trying to balance out positive negative space. I made this one in the middle a little bit bigger, as I'm vibing with that one a little bit more. Use my alignment tools, center this up. Use my distribute spacing, and then just eyeball the rest. Here we have it. Monograms, different styles, different looks. The overlap and intersect took a while. It's kind of a challenge, but it's always good to push yourself and try new things there. So there again, thanks Dylan for letting me use these as an example. And hopefully you can use this as a resource, and we'll tag this at different times so you can jump and look at certain things if you need to. So there we have it. Monogram set. Black and white. You can use color on this if you want. I just left it in black and white to keep it a little more minimal. Hopefully this helps.